The one thing I learned from ketamine, and I have to give it credit for this, is I got so loaded on that stuff that I lost the concept loaded. And that's never happened to me before. I couldn't understand what was happening because I couldn't remember what being high is. And so here I am, and I sort of come into awareness, and I say, what is this? And then the answer is, who knows? Next question, who's asking? Answer, who knows? And so I just look at it for a while, and then suddenly, out of left field, this aha experience. I must be stoned. And then it's like everything crystallized. That's it! I'm a human being. I took a drug. I'm lying on the floor. This is a trip. He said, oh, this is a trip. Gotcha. Now I know what's happening. We're having a trip. Okay, let's have the trip. But until I got that sorted out, it was like the biggest, So I would not, I don't prefer it because part of my ethic, I guess you would say, is that you should be able to communicate your experiences. It's almost like an obligation. It's like if you go fishing on our lake, you should give some of the fish to the village. If you go fishing and catch a lot of fish and eat them out in the boat and come back with nothing but bones for the village, then this is kind of bad behavior. So I stay clear of ketamine. I have a bias, it used to be stronger, against synthetic substances. But again, in fairness, I have to say, these drugs, people have different kinds of experiences. Like I've said to people on ketamine, you don't really hallucinate in the way that I want to hallucinate. People say, oh no, I had fantastic, it was beyond DMT. So again, the individual thing. And then what's the final thing? And then just physical things about ketamine. I don't like a drug so strong that the house could burn down around you and you would never bat an eye. And that could certainly happen on ketamine. At height, you have not a clue. They could remove your head and you would not bat an eye. And the other thing I noticed about ketamine is it really sticks to your ribs. In other words, the experience lasts an hour, you come down, but the next day you're driving on the freeway and comes a wave where you say, oh my God, what is this? And I think it sequesters in fatty tissue or something. And so that makes it a little dicey. Hope I didn't rain on anybody's parade here. The people who are into it are passionately into it. I accused one guy one time of being a monopharmaphile. I said, my God, you won't take a drink, you won't have a hit, you won't do... But this stuff, 5 times a day. Well, I'm as interested as you are. I don't have any special information. I did talk earlier in the weekend about this model of the hyperdimensional object intruding into three-dimensional space-time and through the miracle of metabolism wrapping matter around itself for a few years, and then when the hyperdimensional form retracts out of this lower dimensional matrix, the matter that it's organized simply falls apart. I like that model. My DMT trips, as I think I mentioned this too, I've given it to some Tibetan guys, and they said, you can't go further than that and return. What he actually said was, it's the lesser lights. The lesser lights appear at the beginning of the bardo. The thing about DMT, and we didn't talk about it much this weekend, is that it is an inhabited space. A huge percentage of the people who take it encounter entities of some sort in there, not entities like wombats and foxes, but entities with intelligence of some sort, with language of some sort. Well, remember I talked about the principle of parsimony, of preferring the simplest explanation first? Well, when you have a drug which conveys you into an inhabited space, even the simplest explanation is going to be pretty baroque. Some people, including myself, wanted to leap to the conclusion, well, these must be the aliens. We finally found their hive. It isn't under the Atlantic Trench. It isn't inside Mount Everest. They're hiding inside this organic molecule. But I think in service of the principle of parsimony, preferring the simplest explanation, these things must be human souls. It's easier for me to believe in the human soul than to believe in a colony of extraterrestrials camped inside an alkaloid. But it's not that easy for me to believe in human souls. But still, the feeling you have from these things is one of immense affection for humanity. That wouldn't come from a diplomatic mission from Zenebel Ganubi. This intense love, and so I dare to hope, having deconditioned myself from my Catholic childhood and gone through existentialism and all that, now I dare to hope that maybe there is some kind of existence beyond the grave. One of the funny feelings, there are a number of, how could you call it, thematic layers in the DMT experience, but one of the thematic layers is, weird as this place is that you burst into, it's somebody very strange worked very hard to produce a place that they thought would be reassuring to a human being. And the analogy, it's stronger than an analogy, the feeling that comes through is, this is like a maternity ward. It's as though you're being born. And these marvelous, self-transforming, Fabergé, crystalline 4D toys that they're handing out in this space may be, to them, nothing more than the equivalent of those extruded plastic geometric shapes that we hang on a string over a bassinet. And if you ask a child psychologist, why do we do this? They say, well, it coordinates the child's ability to see spatial and so forth and so on. It's very like that. You have been born into an alien world, and the only thing you can do is gape, basically gape in utter amazement. And everyone is surrounding you, and they're saying, welcome, it's okay, be happy. Well, then if it is like a maternity ward, then one can know as much about whatever universe that is as one could deduce about this universe from looking at the four walls of a maternity ward in a small hospital in, say, Salinas.